Welcome to another episode of the Leading Life Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Zook, and here is where we're going to talk about helping you become a stronger leader in all aspects of your life. All right, here we go. Right now on today's episode, let's talk about remembering why you became a leader to begin with. Welcome to the Leading Life Podcast. Here is where we talk about what it takes to grow, lead, and live life with purpose. I'm your host, Andy Zook, and each episode is designed to give you simple, real-world tools to help you show up as your best self in work and in life. Because when you lead yourself well, you inspire others to do the same. Let this be the platform that will challenge you so you can achieve everything you deserve. I want to give you the tools to help you be stronger at leading, the psychology behind it, and give you that leadership edge to be even more effective at whatever you do. And this is for all aspects of your life, helping you and others with courage, clarity, and care. And so I hope you're listening to this episode driving to work today, or maybe driving home. Maybe it'll be more effective that way. But I want you to remember why you took on the leadership position you're currently in. And if you say, honestly, I took the position because there was a raise, a title, and a chance to move up in my field, then I really appreciate that. That is truly being honest. Because I would say most of us are in good company with that why. Now, if you said, I took this leadership position because I wanted to lead people to a higher performance and I wanted to manage a productive business, I would say that's even better. That's pretty great. Now, if you answered that question, I became a leader because I wanted to develop people to grow in their field, help them become masterful at their craft, and build a fulfilling life from there, then I would say that's about as perfect of a reason as you could get. Honestly, I reflect back to when I first became a manager, and it was a mix of more money and some other things, but I will ultimately tell you that it was because I knew I could do better than the managers I was working for. That was the main thing. I wanted to lead people better because they were so stiff and they were constantly focused on procedure and policy. They never really took time to listen to what their people needed and wanted and understood how to build a synergized team. So that was my why. Mix of money, but ultimately I knew I could do it better. So as you think about this, I want to take it a step further and I want you to have this ultimate impact as a leader. Because over the years for me, it comes down to one thing, and that is to open doors for people's development and growth. When people ask me, what do? I say, I open doors for others. Not only do I want to open the door, but I want to help my people break them down and break into the life that they deserve. You know, I remember me and my wife were driving home from Atlanta to Orlando last summer. And we had stopped to get gas in this small town, middle of nowhere. And there was a hamburger fast food place next to the gas station. So, hey, let's grab a couple burgers to go. We can eat them in the car. And I remember seeing something that I'll never forget. And maybe not seeing something I'll never forget, but having a revelation. And that was, we were in the restaurant waiting for our order. And my wife's like, are you okay? And I said, you know what? I kind of just stood there frozen and I said, there's 4 or 5 people behind the counter working in this place. And you know what my number one concern is that they'll never get out of here. Yeah, they'll never be more than this. And I wonder if that bothers the manager that they're working for, or does that manager even think the same way? Or does that manager think the same way and they're thinking, I guess this is all there is for me too, and I'll never get out of here. And I know that is really the foundational calling of my leadership, my coaching, and this podcast. It is getting people to see what they're truly capable of and not settling in any aspects of their lives. I want you to have a vision in your mind of where your people's career is going to go and see what they're capable of. As a leader, it's your responsibility. It's your job to see it clearer than they can. You want to bring out the very best in them. But why is it some people resist growth and learning and moving forward? Because It's hard for us to do all that if they're pushing back. But a couple things that will help bring this into focus is remembering, number one, that the brain's primary goal is to avoid threat, not to seek growth. The human brain evolved to prioritize safety and predictability, not progress. The amygdala, which is our emotional alarm center, interprets any form of change, a new role, a new system, new expectations, as a potential threat. So when leaders say, hey, let's grow, let's stretch, let's change, our brains quietly say, that sounds risky. I'd rather stick with what I know. Even ambition gets overridden if the subconscious feels unsafe. Dopamine is released not by achievement itself, but by the anticipation of a meaningful reward. So when growth goals at work are vague, like, be more proactive, I need you guys to step it up, well, there's no clear target for the brain to chase, so there's no dopamine to fire in our brains. The result can be apathy, procrastination, or emotional flatness. And then the limbic system, our emotional brain, decides what's worth learning long before our logic does. If growth feels get disconnected from purpose, the brain won't invest energy in it. That's why mandatory training, quote unquote, rarely sticks. But a passion project can change someone's life forever. So let's dive in on how to do that. How do we really begin to grow the people working for us? Number one, we need to rethink what career growth means. Most organizations talk about career paths like they're ladders, one way up, one direction forward. But people don't want just titles anymore. They want progress. They want to feel that what they're doing matters, that they're evolving. So as a leader, your job isn't to just hand out promotions. It's to help people find purpose, build their confidence, and see possibilities they can't even see for themselves. Because a great leader doesn't give power, they help people find their own. And that will help career growth that will last. Help tie growth to purpose. Show people why their development matters. Because when the brain feels meaning, it turns on motivation. Number two, start with curiosity, not control. You can't grow someone you don't know. So the best leaders are career coaches in disguise. They ask great questions, not to manage performance, but to understand dreams. Try asking your people, what do you want to be known for in a year from now? Or which parts of your job give you energy and which parts drain it? Or what's one skill you'd love to master if time wasn't an issue? When you start there with curiosity, you shift from boss to builder, and that's when people start to bloom. So start by thinking of their career not just as a ladder, but a skill tree. Every new skill, every feedback moment, every coaching, every challenge is a branch that makes them more adaptable and valuable. Ask yourself, what new skill am I helping them develop this quarter? How can I help them go deeper in what they already do well? Who else can they learn from that may see things differently than I do? Like Adam Grant says, don't chase opportunities, build the capacity to create them. And that's exactly what growth looks like, expanding their capacity right where they are. Growth doesn't always mean moving up. Sometimes it means stretching across. Give people small leadership moments. Have them lead part of a meeting. Let them mentor a new associate. Involve them in cross-training. Those are the micro promotions that shape confidence. It says, I see you and I trust you to lead. I trust you to grow. Your job as a leader isn't just to push them harder. It's to create an environment where their brains feel safe enough to take on the challenge. That one moment of trust can change the way someone sees themselves forever. All right, number 4, feedback is fuel. If you want your people to grow, give them the advice and coaching they deserve. Not the once-a-year annual review thing, but the kind that says, hey, I believe in you enough to help you get better. And use the boost model like we talked about in another episode. Feedback is balanced, observed, objective, timely, specific and timely rather. It turns feedback from fuel into fear. And when you deliver it with empathy and encouragement, you create a growth culture, one where people want to hear how they can improve. And number 5, build career growth systems, not just have the conversation. Conversations are great, but systems will sustain growth. Monthly one-on-ones focused on development and not just tasks. Team learning goals where everyone picks a new skill each quarter. And then peer mentoring that pairs people up to exchange feedback and encouragement. When growth becomes part of the rhythm, it stops being optional. It becomes who you are as a team. And lastly, 6, the legacy of leadership. Here's where the heart of it is. Your legacy won't be how many titles you've earned. It'll be how many people you lifted. The best leaders are career accelerators. They create environments where others find their confidence, their purpose, their voice, their next level. So ask yourself this week, who on my team is ready for a stretch assignment or a small step forward, and how can I open that door? Because when you grow your people will grow your business. What it really comes down to you is you have a choice as a leader to merely keep the business going or start to grow a legacy of leadership, a legacy of helping people not only build their careers, but their lives. And what I mean by that is our work is the jump off point for an amazing life. And those 4 or 5 workers in that hamburger restaurant back in Georgia, what worries me about them is they may never see that. They'll never have someone that sees that for them. And I hope I'm wrong, but I guarantee this is probably happening 75% of the time. And there's only 25% that is really being helped to grow and lead an incredible life. So here's my leadership edge for this episode. I remember years ago, I had a young man that worked with me, and he had a problem with showing up on Saturdays. He's a young guy, tons of promise, but me and the crew were trying to help him get to a place where we could utilize his talents, but his calling out was just a constant issue. And finally, it just ran to the point where we had to part ways. And I remember feeling depleted from trying to help him because I was so worried that he was going to fall into this system. And what I mean by system is that there is so many destructive paths that are laid out there for us. And if we choose to walk down them, there's not much really in the way to stop us. People don't resist growth because they're unmotivated. They resist because their brains are wired to protect identity, safety, and predictability. And for some people, if they can get out of responsibility, they will. An example would be, I played in a band as a drummer with a really great guitar player, but he had walked down a road of destruction with drug use. And I would say there were probably more people there to guide him down that path than there were to stop him. And those that were trying to stop him felt powerless. And ultimately, he chose to stay on that path though. And unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. And I will forever have to live with the what could have been. Because he could have been the next great rock guitar player, or hear his songs on the radio, or he could have been the amazing husband he was meant to be. The world will never know. And so back to that young man that had a problem showing up on Saturdays, I had begged him, hey, listen, if this isn't the job for you, I will go out and get you another job. But if you're going to be here, you got to go all in. And he'd choose another path. And he got a job that was far worse in working conditions than the one with us. I'm like, all you got to do is show up here, work in air conditioning, listen to the radio, and process a few orders and go home at 3 o'clock. That's it. That's all you got to do. But he walked away from it. And so that's my warning with the last part of this episode is some people will ultimately choose the wrong path and you won't be able to stop them. But I want to remind you that is not your fault. They made the choice. But if I go over my career span as a leader, there have been more people promoted and living incredibly well than there isn't. There are heartbreaks along the way, but they're part of the cost. And I guarantee for them, for the people that you weren't able to develop and I wasn't able to, they learned a lesson that they took with them and maybe they took it somewhere else. So what I'm trying to say here is that it's never not worth the investment in your people. But also sometimes you got to know where to cut your losses and you can't jump on the grenade for someone who isn't willing to help themselves. Make sure you invest your time and energy into people who don't abuse it and are learning from you and growing from it. And this is my call to arms for this episode. I'm going to say it again. I want you to create a vision in your mind of where your people's career is going to go and what they're capable of. I want you to see it. I want you to feel it. And I want you to be able to touch it. And what I mean by that is that it's written down. They have a real life breathing career path written in understandable language of what steps they need to take to get ahead. And you have follow through. As a leader, it's your job to see that clearer than they can. It's your responsibility to make sure you bring out the very best of them so they can see it too. So I want you to take some time today or tomorrow when you're at work and have a hard look at your people working with you and give them something to work on that will further develop their career. And if they don't have a career plan, they don't have any type of written document of where they're going, get them started on it now. That's all you got to do. Take some time today or tomorrow and start working with your people on a development plan. Let's say you got a crew of 10 people. All right, I guarantee 8 are going to appreciate it and they're going to act on it. And maybe the other 2 won't. But just stay focused on the 8 that will. Those are the ones that want to grow. Those are the ones you want to put your energy into help growing. Don't forget why you became a leader to begin with. As I always say, it's the greatest responsibility that one can have. So take it seriously. You must have had someone yourself along the way that opened that door for you. Do you remember how that made you feel? What it felt like when you walked through that door and you took on the next level of your career? Well, it's time for you to repay that to the people that are working under you. It is the most fulfilling part of my life at work. All right, that's my episode. I hope this impacted you for the better. Please leave me a rating and review if you liked what you are hearing, whatever platform you hear me on. Please pass this episode on to a friend, coworker, or family member, or someone that you know could benefit. Please hit subscribe so you won't miss another episode of the Leading Life Podcast. And remember, I want you to go out, lead on, lead strong, be awesome you, but most importantly, go out and be the hero of somebody's story today. And that's what leadership is all about. Being the hero, building their career, helping them see how amazing their life can be. Because again, work is just the jump off point to an amazing future. All right. Have an awesome week ahead. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you soon. Until the next episode. Bye.